Welcome back into the next major way that most users interact with Visual KPI. We've already talked about the dashboard as one of those major ways, and profiles and how they all relate. That's more the personalized view. Now we're going to talk about groups, or otherwise known as the hierarchy, or how you might navigate through all of the information that's been made available to you. So I'm going to go over here to the left side of the screen. You see I was on the dashboard, or I am currently, and I'm going to go to groups. That's going to take me to the very top level of the hierarchy. Now, the hierarchy I like to think about just like folders on your PC, meaning you can have as many of them as you want, you can have as many levels of them as you want, and you can name them whatever you want. On your PC, those folders can contain other folders. At any level of the hierarchy, they can contain files like videos or music or PowerPoint presentations or Excel spreadsheets. In the case of Visual KPI, we have groups. They contain all those same features, and our groups can contain other groups, but they can contain other things at any level, and those other things, instead of spreadsheets and presentations, are KPIs or charts or tables, which you see right on the left in the navigation bar. Okay, so at any level of the hierarchy. Now, before I start drilling in on the hierarchy, let me highlight a few differences between the folders on your PC and what happens in Visual KPI. The first one should be very obvious because you have color and status and this automatic roll-up of performance about what's happening. So if I go over on my mobile phone and also go to groups, even right here on a very small screen, I might have 1 million KPIs there. I probably shouldn't, but if I did, I can still see that I have problems in region Northeast somewhere. Might be at this level, might be all the way down 10 levels deep in the hierarchy, but I still know that I should probably start looking in region Northeast because something is going wrong there. Okay, so that's one of the major differences, is this automatic roll-up. And also, I didn't have to build it. There's no concept of going to a blank screen and saying I need a roll-up there. By definition, when you organize Visual KPI and set it up, you have one or more hierarchies, and just by having KPIs in there somewhere, you're going to have this roll-up performance view. In fact, you'll see a couple of groups that have been used here for demo purposes that have no KPIs in them. And so there is no roll-up on those particular ones. Okay, so that is one of the major differences between the folders on your PC and what we do. The second major difference is that objects can appear in multiple groups at the same time. So if I'm monitoring the temperature outside in San Francisco, that might belong to the San Francisco group in one part of my hierarchy, and somewhere else I might have a weather group that has the San Francisco temperature KPI in it too, but it's still one KPI. And that's because we support this concept of attributes, which brings me to the third major thing that's different about the folders on your PC and what we do. These groups can be dynamic and they can be automated. So I could have a concept where a group contains all rail cars inbound to San Francisco right now. And when those rail cars arrive here and in some data source somewhere, their destination changes from San Francisco to Seattle, then the data source changed. We're reading that data source. We know that the attribute called destination changed from San Francisco to Seattle. And if there's another group in there that says all rail cars bound for Seattle, then all those KPIs and everything associated with that rail car would dynamically move into that other group. So you can fully automate our system. There's lots of ways to do it. We won't go into too much detail in this training about it, but that's something we can work with you on, and we'll also have another training course to talk about in a little more detail. So those are some of the basics. Now, before you get bored at looking at a static screen, let's start drilling in a little bit here and talk about how to navigate this. So first of all, you'll see that I have particular colors and status options in the legend. As I mentioned before, all these can be customized. I'm kind of using it pretty close to out of the box here. So I have everything from triple low to triple high and not in service associated here. Now, the toolbars here on any group view, I have the ability to filter that, either filter by status or filter by distance from where I'm standing if I have a device with a GPS. I can expand this to show all the groups. So break open each of these things and show the entire hierarchy. I can add any of these groups to the dashboard. And then on any of these toolbars, you'll see on lots of things I'm about to show you, you have different views of it. So if I wanted to look at, instead of a list view of these groups, I wanted to look at it on a KPI map, I could do that. That's going to give me all of those. So that's another way to view all the information here. Or we have something called a group map, which we'll go into later. I'll give you a quick view of that. The third, or I could view all these on a geo map, right? Show me a world map, or in this case, just a US map with all the information from this particular thing. So I'm looking at the same amount of information, but I'm toggling between different views. And as I mentioned before, all these views were automatically generated by the system just because there's enough information to display them. If there was no geolocation on any of these objects, that icon would not appear. You wouldn't be able to show a geomap view of it. Okay, so let's drill down in here past region Northeast now, and I'll do it on the phone as well. And let's look at these particular views, right? So let me show you what I was looking at before compared to this again. At this level, I had groups, other groups that I can drill into, but I also had some KPIs at this level, some charts, and even some tables right here at the home level. When I drilled into region Northeast, I don't have anything else at this level. It's sort of like drilling into a folder on your PC and only seeing other folders instead of other files. And maybe you need to drill in again to another folder before you get to that file you want. Same concept here. So when I click in again to the Exton group, now I'm going to see other groups I could drill into, but other KPIs. And one important concept of navigation here is that it doesn't matter what level of the hierarchy you're in, you can toggle between the different types of objects. So when I'm at the groups level, it's going to show me other groups, which is the main visualization, but also show me if there's other things at this level. If I switch over to KPIs, you'll see it stayed at the exact same level in the hierarchy, but switched over to only showing me KPIs or only showing me charts, right? And in this level of the hierarchy, there aren't tables. They don't exist at this level or below, so that icon actually disappeared. Where if I go up to region Northeast or up to the home group, you'll see now I have 3 icons over here. So important understanding of the navigation. As I go through each level, I can toggle what type of thing I'm looking at. And once I'm at something I want to look at, like if I go down here to Exton again, and I switch over to KPIs, so instead of toggling what type of information, now I can toggle between various views of it. So again, I have the same list of KPIs here, and I could switch around and see those different views, okay? And always right here in this middle section, you'll see all the various views that are available to you. Okay, so that's a little bit about navigating the hierarchy and toggling back and forth to different objects or different views of different objects. Okay, so that's one type of way to think about groups. Now I'm going to go all the way back up to the home group and talk about another concept that's important. Now, mostly this concept is handled in the designer by the administrator of your system or whoever's in charge of configuration, but it's important as an end user to understand how it works. And that's the concept of site-wide settings versus individually overridden or override settings on just about any object in our system. So the administrator will set up defaults. So by default, if I click on a group here, it's going to take me down a level, but with this same list or roll-up view. Okay? If I go back up a level again, and I click on this global group, you will see that it takes me down a level too, but somebody has overridden the default behavior just for that group to say, take me to the map when you do it. And I can still switch back to other views, but this is just deciding for me what view they want me to look at. And then as I drill in, I'm going to see more things. So let's drill all the way into France here, get down to a live map of an oil refinery here with some tank levels. Okay. So that's one where whoever set up the system decided that this particular branch of the hierarchy should be very map focused. So they made the defaults the map view. Okay, so that's another example. Now let's go all the way back up to the top of the hierarchy again. And let's talk about expanding a particular group to see more about it. So if I look here at region Northeast and I click the ellipsis icon, you'll see underneath it, there's more information. So this is available right inside of any group here. Here's the Exton group and some of its stuff. So it'll tell me the description if it doesn't have room to show it, which it doesn't over here. It'll show me how many KPIs are in it and in what status they are. It'll give me any links to things. These are some sample demo ones, some actions I can take, etc. So there's always a little bit more information, or sometimes a lot more information, hiding right underneath these objects when you view them. Okay. Same thing is true on an individual KPI. You can also expand that and see more information. So if I go down here, you'll see all of its limits and links and actions I could take, and even who's responsible for it if that's been defined. So that's something to understand. It's also a great indicator that every feature is available no matter how small your screen size is. So you're always going to have access to all the information in there. I'll show you some examples of that when we talk about KPIs as well. Okay, and then let's talk about, while we're here in the hierarchy, a few of the different types of visualizations that you're going to see. So most everything we've looked at so far, when I drill in here and I go to the Exton group, or when I go to anything else, any of these list views, like look at a set of KPIs and switch its visualization, these are all visualizations that were automatically built just because KPIs exist and they have enough configuration information for us to show it. So nobody had to go and manually say, I need one of these and I need to build it or define it in any custom way. Okay, so that's one type of visualization. The second is an ad hoc visualization. And let's go ahead and make one right here. Let's take this gross megawatts KPI and maybe this, what's another good one? Pressure. And let's take phase, and let's take one on that's a really high number like this fuel KPI. Okay, and I could add even more in here. Actually, let's take this market price one. It's super low. Okay, you can see these are radically different KPIs. If I click here, I'm going to go right to the trend of it. If I just go up to the top, you'll see I have some options of what I can do. I could add all of these to my watch list, if you recall the watch list. I could add all of these 5 KPIs to my dashboard, or I can trend them all. And if I click trend, that has given me an ad hoc visualization, meaning the administrator didn't set it up. I decided I want to correlate all 5 of these KPIs on the same trend and then customize it and keep it for myself. So this is these are on radically different scales. I did that on purpose so we can actually see them. We'll talk about trends in a little more detail later, but just as a quick example, let me customize this and make it like a 1-hour trend and make it multi-scale. You can also change the pen type or choose whether I want it to keep running live or whether I want it to stay static and wait for a refresh. Now that I've made it multi-scale, you can see that I have a fully custom trend here that I've made. I can even take this further, go up to the gear icon, choose ad hoc trend. That's going to give me details about every pen in here, what data source it's coming from. In this case, it's coming, all of these are coming from a historian, so they have a tag associated with them. If they were coming from a SQL data source, they might look different. And I even have the ability to go add another pen. So let's do that. Let's add a new pen. Let's say, let's also get it. Here's your list of data sources you can choose from. Let's say go to this, also the same data source, and get a sample tag, CDT 158. And let's, we can make that orange. Yeah, let's leave it orange, but let's give it a different type. Let's make it a symbol trend. And then if I click trend, I've added a new pen to my trend here, which is all these dots because I made it a symbol trend there. So a pretty powerful concept and the ability to make whatever you want. So that's ad hoc visualizations. There's a few other types of those we'll talk about as we get into the individual visualizations. The last type of visualization that I want to talk about, I'm going to go back up to the top, is managed visualizations. This means when the administrator or who's in charge of configuration wants to make custom visualizations or additional types of visualizations and do so and make them available to everybody or make them available to whoever they want rather than just one user being able to see it Now, a user can save it to their dashboard and make the dashboard available to other people, but they can't make it a first-class object, meaning they can't make it part of the hierarchy with all of its attributes and geolocation and all the other things that a normal full first-class object can have. So if I go to the Charts tab, you'll see this is where all the managed charts go. And again, there are either other types of charts that don't get automatically created, or they're the same type that you can make a lot of customizations to, or that the administrator can create. So let me run you through a few of those. Bar charts, horizontal, vertical, stacked, grouped, time range, not, etc. Query driven or not as well. Embedded content, like the YouTube video I showed you. Gantt charts, Pareto charts. Now there's some automatically generated Pareto charts in our system, which I'll show you in the analytics section of this course. But these are more manually generated or query-driven Pareto charts that the administrator can create. Here's a pie chart example. Trend charts. Trends can have either, when manually generated, can have up to 20 pens, or when automatically generated, even up to 100 pens. And even can contain other objects. So just like that trend I made, the administrator could make one of those and put it at a level in the hierarchy and give it all those features that any other object has. And the last ones down here are scatter or XY plots, both time series and non-time series. So that's what we mean by managed visualizations. So just to summarize that, you have automatically generated visualizations, like this roll-up view over here, or all the things that you see on all these icons here. Those are generated just by the system and nobody needs to build them. You have ad hoc ones, meaning the user can go create their own, and you have managed ones that the administrator creates that are customized. So that's a little bit about hierarchy and the groups concept in Visual KPI. We'll do a little bit more of going into these visualizations and show you each one of them, and we'll move on to that next.